70-year-old Daud Sheikh Aden is among hundreds of people in Garissa County who registered as refugees in the 90s. Daud Sheikh's decision to seek refuge at the Dab camp is after a severe drought wiped out his livestock, then his only source of livelihood. Reeling from that loss, he ushered his entire family into the camp, where their details were promptly captured in the refugee database.
1992 mimi kushaingia pale sababu ya ukame. Watoto wameingia kidole ya refugee. Iko taabu mingi sana. Aliletwa chakula mingi sana watu wa UN. Wakati wameleta chakula, watoto wameingia tu.
Dadaab refugee camp, situated in Garissa County, is easily identifiable by the sea of white tents and makeshift huts that house thousands of refugee seekers. It was established by the United Nations in 1991 to host refugees fleeing the civil war from Somalia. Since its creation, thousands of host communities, mainly Kenyans, registered themselves and their children as refugees in order to get basic necessities such as food, water, health facilities, and resettlement to a third country. However, what they didn't count on was that once their fingerprints were in the UN refugee database, they were identified as refugees and they would carry that mark for life. Daud is one of them. He registered his 6 children. Abdi Salat was only 6 months old when they arrived at the camp. He was optimistic that a better future was in the offing once he left the camp after completing his high school education. The gravity of the situation only becoming clear when he turned the symbolic 18 years and applied for an identity card.
Wakati wa kufika 18 anabilikwa kwa kibande na mambiwa wewe kidole yako iko refugee. Mimi mtu ya Kenya nimesaliwa Garissa. Sikuzaliwa bali wengine yoyote. Lakini taabu ndio ningiza sisi namna hiyo watoto wetu.
Abdi is now 27 years old. His life has been full of misery. Despite his rightful claim to Kenyan citizenship by birth, the government classifies him as a Somali refugee.
Nimekata kitambulisho mara 7. Nimekosa. Hapa tu Garissa. Inafika kwa Nairobi najulikana kama mimi ni refugee kwa sababu fingerprint yangu wako kwa refugee sio. Mtu ambaye hana kitambulisho hakuna mtu anapatia kazi ba. Ni mtu ambaye hajulikani.
Shida mingi sana. Hiyo watoto hata hakuna mtu anaweza kwenda safari kidogo. Hata kwa mbusi siwezi kufikisha. Watoto naulizwa na askari, wapi kibande.
Mara wamenishika ukiwa na tuna ranganda tu na kwenda dukani wananishika wameniweka ndani kwa sababu sina kitambulisho.
Daud's quest for a better education and a better life for his children has now left him a bitter, frustrated man. Yes. Instead of the envisioned change of fortunes, his children are now stateless.
Hata kama nakufa mtoto yangu anja wacha akufa anja badele kama mimi najua taabu hii alikuwa natokea.
The most affected were minors who had not yet acquired their IDs. Most of them were either registered by their parents or relatives when they were children.
My name is Faisal Shakir Gedi. I'm from Garissa County, a 21-year-old. When I was standard 6, I visited in the camps where my aunt was living. In the camps, they normally get rations twice in a month. So, and you get those rations depending on the number of members in your household. So, to increase the rations in the month in which she used to receive, she lured me to register as a refugee, and I never knew the consequences because I was a kid by then. I was around 12 years old. What I can remember is that my fingerprints were captured by then. My parents even never knew whether I was registered in the refugee or database or not. They just came to realize this. Later on, after joining university and applying identity card, I came to realize that in the first attempt I was told you are registered in the refugee database and you cannot get an identity card. And actually that was the most horrible experience I have ever had in my life. I finished my high school in the year 2016 with a mean grade of people, and then I got a scholarship from the government whereby I was supposed to pursue civil engineering. I went to Musinde University and I started there. And you know, as you know, in government scholarships we are given 70%. In the second semester, when I was supposed to pay my fees again, the 30%, my family and my dad were unable to pay, and I could not apply for help because I did not have an identity card, and I was forced to quit that career of becoming an engineer in the future, and I quitted there. I came back to Garissa again. I struggled there. Then I applied for a Turkey scholarship. I went for an interview at Intercontinental Hotel. Again, I got the scholarship, but later on I could not process my passport because I did not have my national identity card. I was lucky to become actually the first student from that location to get a university grade. From my extended family, they had a lot of hope in me, saying that one day I'll become a successful man and I will be uplifting the many people who are there. Unfortunately, you know, I became number 1 in my primary school and joined a school here at County High School Garissa again. I had hopes of becoming an engineer, and that is the ambition I had all the way from primary school. But you know, it seems that ambition was crippled by not having an identity card. It's a challenge. If you don't have an identity card, then I can say, although I cannot call myself a failure, but you know, it's a kind of that. I have birth certificate, my parents have, they are citizens by birth. I have my primary certificate, my secondary, I have my university admissions, and I have no any reason to doubt whether I am a Kenyan or not. And you know, I'm a good student of history, and history tells us, and the constitution itself, that once your parents are citizens, whether you are born in or outside the country, then you become a citizen of this country by birth. I enrolled for a degree course, mathematics, chemistry at Garissa University. Over the holiday, I go to the university and pursue. Then during school time, I go and teach and raise my fees to educate myself.
Naitwa Idris Roble. Anti yangu alikuja tu nyumbani, aliomba wazazi, na wakati hiyo kulikuwa na drought. So alinipeleka huko tu nikaingia refugee. Nilichukuliwa fingerprints hiyo yote 10. After registration, I came back to my parents. Mimi nimekaa na parents yangu. Huyo aunti yangu bado ako refugee, anasumbuka tu huko bado. Wazazi wangu wakati walijua, walifeel bad, waliona mbaya. Hata waliongea na yeye, sasa yeye aliambia hakuna mahali naweza kumsaidia. So she got what she wanted. Ratio mingi. Nikikata ID, niende kutafuta, ngoje hiyo waiting nikae nayo, naambiwa RF means umeingia refugee. Mama ni Mkenya, baba ni Mkenya. Nimekata ID mara 10. Na nitaenda kukata mara 11, 12, 13 na sitakosa kukata. Niko na haki ya kupata ID. I feel very much bad. Na patanga hata mara nafikiria mpaka sijui naenda wapi, naelekea wapi, nyumbani wapi. Unaona? Hata sikuli chakula ajili ya ID.
22-year-old Alia Osman also suffered the same fate.
Aunti yangu ameniweka kwa refugee. Mimi na sister yangu nimeingizwa nikiwa mdogo kabla sijafika miaka 10. Wakati nimemaliza shule ndio nikajua kama kupata ID ni shida. Sasa kupata hiyo majibu nimepata kama mimi ni refugee. Ndio nikajuta. Kwa sababu kama ukiwa mdogo huwezi jua kama hii kitu itasababisha maisha yako. Sasa hiyo aunti yangu wakati amepata kwa hiyo kwenda Amerika, alienda na watoto wake. Sasa mimi mwenyewe nilikuwa nasoma, nilikuwa naendelea na shule, imebidi mimi nikae na mama yangu.
When Suleiman Bishar accompanied his mother to the Dadaab refugee camp in 2008, all he wanted was an avenue to escape the vagaries of life that had pushed them to the limits at their home in Garissa. The refugee camp was their only way out. Fatuma Abdi is physically challenged. She can neither stand nor walk. She lost the effective use of her lower limbs at the age of 5 when she became paralyzed. She crawls on her hands and knees.
aniga curiyaan baan ahay qof lixaad qabo miihi oo soo shaqeysan karo waxaan maqlay boosho iyo shaah iyo meeshan sokor iyo saliida iskor saaran gaajana way iheyse marka waxaan tagay xagar dheer waxaan iska doontay raashinkaan doonta xagar dheer baan tagay xagar dheer waa laga kasay waxaa la yidhahay waxaa tahay qof Kenyaan waxba laguma siinayo waxaan tagay dhagaxley waxaan ka tagay gaarigayga curyaanka in wate gaari makoona lagu qaade sidii la awgeed ayaa liigu gooy faraha qaxootiga aan ku galay dhagaxley markaa ka galay dhagaxley hal sanad bas ayaan ka qaatay raashin tabaraan u waayay haddana waan iska soo dhaafay.
When Suleiman turned 18, he tried to acquire an ID card, but he was told he did not qualify for citizenship because his fingerprints were in the refugee database. Suleiman is now 24 years old. He is unable to further his education or progress in a career. Fatma had an identification card when she registered as a refugee, but it got lost, and getting a replacement has been a challenge because her fingerprints are in the UNHCR database. She admits that for the past 11 years, her life has been full of endless challenges.
meela u guurna marka sayna Kenyada ahna siiso kibanda ana markaan kibanda yeeste dawladda way isaacideysay waxa la siiyay sharqaanta iyada tada ma aragtay bir hore iga halawday oo dib iskaga iibsaday marka waxay noqotay hadda inaan waxba aan helaynin xagga dawladda waxba kama heli aniga.
To prove that she is indeed a Kenyan citizen, she has a birth certificate and her father's ID.
Madi aan moodahay ama aan ogahay ama dawladda Kenya ay noo sheegto na la dhaho ma helaysin kibandhiina ma tageen laakiin ma fahansaneen.
In 1996 nimefata uncle yangu nimechukua mimi baka huko refugee camp Kakuma Turkana district baka 2002 baka April nimetoka pale.
Being stateless in his own country has had a profound impact on Muhammad Ali's life and that of his family. Statelessness means Muhammad can't apply for a national identity card, a document that is critical in transacting just about any business. His 6 children are denied access to education and can't access many other important rights because they don't have vital documents.
Inne wanasomanga wawezi pata birth certificate na wamelazimisha kupata birth certificate kila mtu ile anataka kusoma watoto. Sasa mimi sina ID, mimi ni kama mtu iko tu jela tu Boma, siwezi enda, siwezi toka mali na UN sijui mimi, ajui mimi, na hapo serikali ya Kenya ajui mimi. Sasa ujue wewe uko mimi sijui ni nani. Mara moja alikuwa nimeenda huko Bale Nairobi, nimeshikiliwa mimi mpaka miezi 2 nimemaliza jela. Amesema wao ni wakimbizi.
In 2016, a report by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, stated a total of 42,000 individuals confessed to being Kenyans registered as refugees, although the local leaders have put the figure at about 80,000. The fact that they are not recognized as Kenyan citizens exposes them to many challenges, ranging from denial of basic rights to access to employment, education and healthcare.
You're a Kenyan and you cannot get your identity card. You become an asylum seeker, a refugee in your own country. Your movement within the country is curtailed. You know, you cannot transact business, or you cannot even register your online. You can't open a bank account.
Ule mdogo wetu anaenda kupiga kura, mimi siwezi enda kupiga kura. I feel so bad.
Siwezi safiri, siwezi enda mahali ingine, ni kukaa nyumbani tu.
Kutoka hapa Garissa kwenda checkpoint ya kwanza hapa ni hii bridge, siwezi enda. Ni shida, nashikwa, sina ID, nashukishwa kutoka basi, naambiwa leta ID, sina.
I was traveling to Lugo on this checkpoint, and they were military officers, and I had some rough time with them for around 2 hours. There are many youth who are suffering like me, and their lives were crippled and frozen. And there are people who are even running away from the country just to seek job opportunities in a country they are barely familiar with. So for my case, I say, no, I can't run away from my country. Let me just be an asylum seeker in my country, because that one, I cannot go to Somalia, in a country where I have no relatives. I don't know who is there, because this is my live about my father and my mother. My great ancestors were born in Kenya, so, and my parents are citizens. I don't know why the government is doubting whether I am a citizen of this country or not.
The victims of double registration have been rendered stateless. Majority of these families claim that they are genuine Kenyans. Some of them even have documents like birth certificates and identification cards of their parents to prove that they are indeed Kenyan citizens. But the fact that their names still appear in the refugee database complicates matters and continues to cause them untold suffering. Area leaders have urged the government to hasten the process, which they say had taken too long to be concluded.
Those people who are double registered, let me say that, they're not refugees, are genuine Kenyans and are quite well known. We want to see that really is taken keen and seriously by the Kenyan government.
Hili jambo imeletea watu hapa shida kubwa. Na kuna watu wengi katika hizi camps wako kwa refugee database. Hawa watu hawakuweza kuingia kwa huduma namba kwa sababu hawana chochote ya kuonyesha hawa ni wa Kenya.
They came to Fafi, they also came to the DAP, they also came to Wajir South, and they did an investigation, or they requested the locals who are double registered to come forward and register themselves again, of which they did. They have collected all those information. It's with the national government right now, so we are requesting that to be facilitated very fast.
The Garissa and the northern part of Kenya was marginalized for a long time. This issue of our people going to refugee was a matter between life and death. People are really hungry. They have survived to make sure that they get something to eat, and they survive up to this time. And I want to blame the government for that failure, because the government was there when our people were going to this system. They were not able to feed their people. They were not able to educate their people. They were not able to get enough medication to our people. From the lower primary up to the high school, up to the university or colleges, we are getting free education everywhere you need in Kenya or even outside. As a result of that, I know even some Kenyans that have gone outside as refugees who are even learning in Canada or some other places. If they had not have sneaked to the UN system, most of them will have died even because of that situation.
In 2016, President Uhuru Kenyatta, while on a tour in Garissa County, promised to solve the issue of double registration.
Wakati wa miaka wa 90, sababu ya ukame, wazazi wetu walienda kwa refugee camp. Na pale wazazi walipoingia kutafuta chakula, watoto wetu wengine waliingia kwa data ya refugee. Vile utafanya, utusaidie, ili watoto wetu watoke katika hiyo database ya refugee.
Kila mtu ambaye anajua ako na jamii yake ambao walikuwa registered kule, wafanye vetting proper. Wale ambao ni wa Kenya halisi waweze kupatiwa vitambulisho na wasaidiwe kurudi kuingiana na jamii zao ambao waliwacha nyuma.
A glimmer of hope shone on the affected people in June this year when the then Immigration Permanent Secretary, Gordon Kihalangwa, while on a tour at the Dadaab refugee camp, said the government was verifying the details and that the Kenyans would be issued with ID cards once the process is completed.
It is true, and I want to say without any contradiction, we have a number of thousands of Kenyan citizens who, because of certain factors, opted to become quasi-refugees. But they are Kenyans, but they want to be refugees. It is something the government is in a position to do without any contradiction. This one we shall do it so that these Kenyans, although we can also say it is their mistake, but it doesn't mean that when you have committed a mistake, then you must actually be condemned. And we are hoping that by August, when we put our house in order, we should come and do the final verification, and that will be done. So that is the assurance.
It was August is already over. The government had always been promising that they are forming a task force, they are doing that, they are doing this, which was not forthcoming. When elections are nearing, they say they are forming a task force. After the elections are over, you will not hear anything again. Even President Moi, when he was the president of this country, there were those promises that were coming, that our people will be registered for the refugee system. The first time Kibaki came in, that was the promise we are getting.
Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho has urged the leaders and residents to be patient, noting the government was working on deregistering Kenyans in the refugee database.
We cannot treat the people who
consequences.
We have registered in their thousands.
It's unfortunate. I think the PS is misfed by people who are not giving him the wrong information. Nothing has ever taken place. There was a lot of problems coming from the government that they want to register. They have collected a lot of lists from all over Fafi, Dadaab, and Wajir. And as we're speaking now, nobody had been registered. As a result of this problem, we're also losing a lot of brains, a lot of human resource, people that are highly educated within the refugee system, who are engineers, medical doctors, and a lot of very important fields are not getting any employment in Kenya because they don't have the ID. And as a result of them, some of them are ending up maybe moving to Somalia, others going to abroad as refugees, maybe to look for employment.
The government plans to close the Dadaab refugee camp, which is home to more than 200,000 refugees. Already 2 camps open to host those who fled the 2011 famine in Somalia have been closed and handed to the Kenyan government. There are fears that genuine Kenyans who are still in the camp might be repatriated to Somalia, a country they know nothing about.
When a person appears, they have a Kenyan ID and they have an alien card. What does that tell anybody? It tells them this is a person of interest to check. So we will check, are they first of all Kenyans? If they are Kenyans, then we will register their status as alien and allow them to Kenya. If they are not Kenyans, then we will register their citizenship and take them to where they belong, in a refugee camp. And that's the exercise that's tedious, we must accept. Because of the problems we are saying, there are a lot of intermarriages.
It's a complex situation, I understand, because there were intermarriages both sides, from the refugee community marrying Kenyans, from the Kenyans married to the communities. These also have some systems. If you are married to any person who is not a Kenyan, for 7 years, that person becomes a Kenyan. Another nationality maybe marries a Kenyan, for that period, she also becomes vice versa. So I think the law is very clear.
All this will actually come to a close when we certainly close the camps. And that is a process that the government has pronounced itself. The camps shall be closed, only that we want to close it in accordance with our international obedience to international conventions.
Knowing who is a Kenyan and who is not a Kenyan is not a big thing, because you find somebody who has no ID, his father, his mother, his grandmother, his grandfather all have IDs and are living within that area. You can even take the DNA test and that will prove. So it's not a big thing. But there's a lack of seriousness in the government side.
We have more than 211,000 refugees now, and some of them, as we all know, it's not a secret, it's an open secret. Some of them are Kenyan. They will not be thrown through the window. We, UNHCR, we have committed ourselves. We are discussing with the donors, and together with all the stakeholders, these people will be supported to reintegrate their area of origin or somewhere in Garissa.
Serikali tumeomba sisi watu wa Kenya, hatujui nchi nyingine, hatolewe sisi watoto wetu kidole. Hata watu ya Somalia watahama tu, watakwenda Somalia, ingine Ethiopia wanahama. Hata watu ya Ethiopia alikuwa wanapiga kelele, alikuwa anataka kuhama kwao. Wacha watu wakwenda kwao na sisi tukwende kwetu.
Faisal Idris, Alia, Suleiman, Mohammed and hundreds of people across northeastern wait patiently for the day when they will acquire ID cards and regain Kenyan citizenship. But as for now, they remain stateless and stuck in their own country with nowhere to go to.
NTV's Rose Wangoi there, bringing us the stories of those who are stateless and stuck. Certainly hope that something will be done to help them. Let me bring you some feedback from the hashtag on Twitter. Abdi Malik Hajar, you say, so sad. Dreams are shattered just because someone registered himself or herself in a refugee database. I hope a solution will be found soon. And Bet, you say,